Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, boom, boom. We are back with another episode of Find Your Freedom. And we have a cool guest today. But before we get into this guest, this episode is being brought to you by Wealth Builders Mortgage Group. And if you're looking for a long-term rental, short-term rental, if you're looking for any type of investment property, this is the shop that you want to go to. Omid uses them. I uses them. Believe me, regardless of your situation, start that conversation because you'll probably be shocked on what they can tell you, but more importantly, what they can do for you. So with that being said, man, we have a really cool guest. And first and foremost, I would like to say that he's a God-fearing man. All right. He will give you the shirt off of his back to help you. And he's just an overall amazing dude. He's a friend to all of us. So with that being said, now let's just get into some of his successes. All right. He has a portfolio of well over $6 million. Something we're going to talk about today. He left his W-2 job back in December 2022. So we want to hear all about that. And he's still crushing it. He left because he was crushing it and still crushing it with his mountain to sea cabin business. He's doing a co-hosting business as well, which we're going to get into. One of his success stories, which just really truly inspiring, is he took his first project that was projected for $85,000 to well over $150K. So with that being said, let's welcome our guy, Mr. Delaney. What's happening, brother?
Thank you. I'm just gonna hire you to do my intros from now on.
Hey, listen, man, honestly, one, you're a good friend to the show, and truth be told is you're a good person, and a lot of people, no knock on anyone else, none whatsoever, but you do sit aside from a lot of people just because of the way that you carry yourself, the heart that you have, and the willingness to help, and more importantly, you're about your business. So when you make all that up with being led by God, it truly means a lot. And I just wanted to make sure that was 100% publicized. But with that, absolutely. So, man, tell us, man, you know what, once again, we're going to get into, leaving that W-2 job, because that's something that a lot of people strive to do. But before we get there, I guess tell us what it was like growing up, man.
Yeah. Well, growing up, so I grew up in a, divorced household. So, single mother, and, had two younger siblings that lived with her, and an older sibling that lived with my father. And it was I wouldn't say necessarily subsistence poverty, but it was pretty low on the totem pole, from an income standpoint, growing up. And, that is a blessing and a curse. It made me very focused on finances, on being very responsible with them, being very frugal with them. I remember my first unofficial job was, I was probably 7 or 8 years old or something like that. As gross as it sounds, picking up cigarette butts from a parking lot for like 50 cents an hour. So I was always doing something, trying to raise money, and, because I had to support myself to some degree, and, anything I wanted. And as I got older, getting a car, all that stuff, all that stuff was on me. So it instilled a lot of fiscally responsible traits, which certainly have helped me throughout my life. But the flip side to it, the curse part of it really, is that it really did set a deep poverty mindset in me as well, which is something that I do still struggle with. Being in the real estate world has certainly helped open me up a lot It's as you guys know, the real estate investing world is a very abundance mindset, community, which is fantastic. And one of the reasons why it's, such a warm and welcoming and successful space. But, it is an inner demon that still is kind of hard to tame sometimes. So,
can I interrupt you right there?
Yeah.
So can we talk about like relationship with money? Because I think that's so important. And I think there's a lot of listeners who have different relationships with money growing up, or who can connect with something similar to the experiences that you've had. Like, how did you what steps did you take, or what resources did you like get into to kind of slowly kind of reshape your relationship with money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really wasn't until I started getting into the real estate world and heading down this path, which was a relatively recent endeavor. 5 years ago or so now. Because up until that point, I was, again, the blessing side of it, I guess, was still holding me along, and that being very fiscally responsible, kind of like I was still kind of in like the Dave Ramsey phase. Let's put it that way. I was doing everything right. No, no bad credit. No bad debt. Credit card debt, that type of thing. Pay things off. Live well within your means. Be frugal. I purchased a primary home when I was, I don't know, 24 or something like that. And so I was doing all the right things that typically you would consider all the right things. And I saved up some money, and so I thought I was on a pretty good track, and probably in comparison to most people was on a pretty good track, right?
Yeah.
But once I started getting into the real estate, and within the first year of actually investing and purchasing properties, I saw that the relatively minor net worth that I had accumulated over the past 15 years of working was, I doubled or almost tripled it within the first year of investing.
Wow.
And so, I mean, that was kind of the light bulb of, this is real. Like, this is, if you really want to build wealth, like, more often than not, the typical W-2 or being an employee route is not going to get you there. Right. And so I was kind of going in that phase, and, of course, reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad, that kind of opens your eyes a bit. And so I was kind of in that real transition phase of, kind of getting out of that, drinking the Kool-Aid mentality of, the only way is to work yourself to death type thing.
Yep.
Right. So that's kind of what really set that transition going, and set me down the path. And then, of course, just as you get more and more into the investing and entrepreneurial and real estate world, and you start surrounding yourself with people who are of a different mindset, and have a different relationship with money, that abundance mindset, of course, that starts to rub off on you. And, as you're able to see your portfolio grow and those types of things, that of course kind of helps as well. So it's just been more of a, and still is a journey of trying to understand and just break those bad habits, of that poverty mindset of growing up. But it really boils down to mostly of who are you going to be around? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Just like anything. And so,
Yeah.
Surrounding myself with people like you guys, that's really how you change that mindset.
Good answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah. Well,
There
and
you go.
something you said, that I think would be interesting to a lot of our listeners. I think all of us here on this podcast didn't come from money. We all came from humble beginnings. And so I think one of the really cool things about real estate, Cale, as you were kind of pointing out, is that there's opportunity. Like, yes, you have to be responsible up to a certain degree to be able to get into the game.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to come from a wealthy background to be
Right.
able to be successful in real
Right.
estate. And then also to your point, I can't speak for Lenny and Omid, but I bet they'd agree. I think my second favorite thing and my second most beneficial thing that I've gotten out of real estate, besides the income and that freedom, is the people that I've met and the friendships that
Yes.
I've made, and such a supportive group all the way around. So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, that's, that's one of the things that certainly has attracted me to the real estate investing world. And I know, I mean, the more people I talk to, the more it seems it's common, is just like you said, that abundance mindset, the giving mindset. It's not cutthroat, it's not dog eat dog. Typically, it's very welcoming.
I don't know, Cale, you did buy in Townsend. I'm not sure about that.
Oh man, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. No.
Kidding. I'm gonna welcome you.
Oh, Gal, man, you're in trouble, dude. You're in trouble.
So I had a question regarding that, because you mentioned a Dave Ramsey kind of mindset. I think in the real estate space, you have a wide spectrum of people, and whether they're kind of like really far into like a really conservative Dave Ramsey approach. And then you have another extreme where they just want to leverage as many tools as possible to the extreme. So can you kind of explain that for, like, let's say somebody who's kind of getting into real estate, and how, like, maybe there's is there a happy medium, or what's appropriate under what circumstances, as far as, kind of getting started and kind of getting your feet wet with, like, approach to money?
Yeah. I think there's certainly a time and a place for each one of those, and it depends on the particular person and their risk profile, and what stage of life they are, what responsibilities they have, and that type of thing. I mean, for most people, it's going to start out, especially if you're coming from the employee world, it's going to start out that you're most likely in the Dave Ramsey, very conservative mindset, right? Because that's just like most people think there's only one way to go in life, which is, go to school, then go to college, then get a job and work until, you die, basically.
It sounds so depressing.
Well,
yeah. No, thanks. Yeah.
It's becoming more and more true these days. But we're taught that that's the only way. Right. And when you live in that mindset, there are only so many levers and things like that you can pull. And so, it's more of a defensive strategy than anything else. Right. So we're being defensive in that we don't want to run up credit card debt or bad debt. Right. We're being defensive in that we want to live well below our means. Right. We're being defensive in that we want to focus on cutting our expenses. Right. So it's a very defensive mentality, which works. And is a necessary skill set for most people, but it only gets you so far, right? So, yeah, can you, if you do that process, by the time you're 65 or 70, probably own a couple homes or something free and clear, and have no other debt? Yeah, and that might be a totally fine lifestyle for a lot of people, right? So there's not anything wrong with that. But is that going to get you to be, ultra successful and building generational wealth and that type of thing? Probably not, right? So to take it to the next level, you got to, get some more levers, right? And so that's kind of where the transition starts to happen with, again, just bring it back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, just because I think that really just displays it or explains it in real layman's terms, is that, to get to the next level, you need to have a business and be an investor, right? And so once you get into that realm, then you get a lot more of these levers to pull. Now you can start, using debt. You can get more into this, aggressive, or not aggressive, but offensive. That's the word I was looking for. Offensive strategies, right? In terms of, okay, now how can I proactively look towards building wealth? How can I not focus on cutting expenses, but how can I focus on increasing income, right? How can I focus?
Well, let me stop you there, because I think what you're hitting on is exactly what, all of us, that mindset that we were in, and what you should be looking at. I'm big on, letting everybody know profits over wages if you want to sit here and you want to make a fortune, you got to make profits. That's just what it's going to be, and I'm big on letting everybody know that it's important to make sure that you take your wages and you turn them into profits. And it's okay, right? But I think that's the struggle, because you got, like you said, you got Dave Ramsey over here who's super conservative. Then you got Robert Kiyosaki over here that is telling you to leverage, right? So I guess, what would you say to another individual that is coming up in the same background that you came up in, that can help them from a money perspective to see money differently and to start to want to do things like invest into real estate?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just comes down to when you look at the facts, I mean, that's what really makes things eye-opening to me. And like I said, the employee path maybe can get you to a comfortable lifestyle, but for most people, it doesn't even do that. And so if you look at the statistics, which I think the last ones I looked at, maybe it was 2022 or 2023 numbers, but only 22% of people in the US said they have enough money to retire comfortably. Right. And that's just comfortably. That's not well. That's, I can live.
That sounds about right, because over 67% of individuals live paycheck to paycheck. So those numbers seem about accurate.
Yeah. So when you just look at that, I mean, that right there tells you something, that it doesn't work. Right. I mean, it doesn't work. So if you want to find a way out of that, then you have to start looking at different things. Right. And it doesn't need to be real estate. I mean, there's so many different paths. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that once you start, kind of opening your mind and getting out of that box, you see, holy cow, like, it's like you've been living in black and white your entire life. And then all of a sudden you start seeing color and you're like, oh my goodness, like, where did all this come from? Like, it's always been there, but I've just never been able to see it. And so, once you start opening your eyes and now you can see that color, there's just so many things you can pick, so many avenues you can look at, so many levers you can start pulling. And, one of the bigger ones is leverage, like you mentioned, Omid. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a huge tool, a huge lever, whether it's real estate or other types of businesses that you can utilize. And so I think educating yourself, maybe to answer the question more pointedly, educating yourself on how to properly use good debt, right? I think that's probably going to be the most important thing that you can do.
Boom.
Which is where mortgages come into play.
Hey, there
you go.
So Cale, when you talk about opening your mind, how were you introduced to short-term rentals? Like, how did you even come across that? How did that start?
Through a podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got a lot of my ideas from podcasts. So.
Good.
That's really how I came across short-term rentals.
And I think Find Your Freedom is one of the podcasts you got a lot of ideas from.
I've got some good stuff on there too.
Go ahead.
But yeah, that's how I found short-term rentals. That's how I found specifically the main market, the Smokies, that I'm in. And that really got me down the rabbit hole of short-term rentals specifically. Prior to that, it was just really, I'd kind of picked real estate, but not anything specific. It was just after reading The Rich Dad Poor Dad and kind of going through the, a little bit of a quarter life, midlife crisis in terms of, realizing that I didn't want to be working this career for the rest of my life, and, kids and, all these other things to start really considering, the far out future a lot more. And so that sent me down the path, and I kind of picked real estate. Initially thought it was small multifamily. So that was actually the first property I bought, was a fourplex. Still have it. Excellent property. But I just quickly realized, cash flow on that is not going to get me where I wanted to be in the time frame that I wanted to get. And so that's where I went back to the drawing board again, devouring podcasts, books, etc., and happened to come across the one about short-term rentals, and it checked the boxes, and kind of dove all in on that.
That's cool. So you jumped into the short-term rental game, and you also achieved and accomplished a milestone that a lot of people want to hit. which is build a business on the side while working their W-2 and being able to build it to a point where they can leave their W-2. So I guess, can you talk about that just a little bit? Talk about what it was like building that business on the side, having a family, still working your W-2, and getting to that point of saying it's time to leave the W-2.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, certainly not easy. Like you said, I was working a full-time job and it was typically 50, 60 hours a week. We had 3 kids. We had, other stuff going on. And then trying to, build this kind of fledgling business and figure out, on the fly. So, it was not an easy venture by any means, but, I was committed. I had a strong why, which, I know you guys are familiar with all that. And I preach that as much as I can as the value and the necessity really of having a strong why that you're doing it. Cause it's certainly, it is going to be probably a bit of a bumpy road. And so, yeah, it just really took dedication. To take the silver lining out of something else, was COVID, and that, it did bring the ability to work from home, which, and my job as well. I was doing, project management for a large construction company. And so it was a very busy, demanding, long-hour job, but it was a job that, was flexible as well, in the sense of, as long as you're getting your stuff done, there's nobody like watching over your shoulder, right? So as long as you put the hours in, get your stuff done, you're good to go. So, I had the ability and that combined with working from home to be able to, double team a little bit and, kind of get things moving. Yeah. I was able to, even, travel a little bit, for a few days, here and there to properties while I was working. As long as I had Wi-Fi, I could still do my meetings. I could still do everything I needed to do, while trying to set up a property at night. And, so, it took a lot of work, as I know you guys put in as well. And yeah, it got to the point where I think within the first year or so it was that I had replaced the income, from the W-2. But I stayed on for another year, which, looking back was good. And I kind of, recommend people hang on for a little bit, unless there's just a real need to get out, or it's just, really, really toxic or something else. But it certainly helps. Of course,
with financing.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, of course, with the financing, with the lending,
Right.
having a W-2 is going to make it much easier to qualify for those loans right off the bat and get yourself going, get that snowball starting to build. So it certainly helped with that. It gives you that little bit of a safety net, right? So it's, if, this real estate thing crashes and burns, like, I'm still okay. I still have the job, right? So it gives you a little bit of a comfort level and maybe a little bit of an ability to, take a little bit more risk, calculated risk. And
Now,
so,
quick question for you, Cale. Sorry, when you started and you had your why and you had your goal, did you realize how big it could actually grow and what it could actually replace, or has it grown beyond what you maybe ever could have anticipated?
it's a good question. Yeah, so I probably didn't have as big aspirations. I had a financial goal, which is kind of like the plug-in number that most people have, like $10,000 a month, right? And yeah, because the motivation more was get me out of this job, right? And that was a number that would do it, comfortably. And I wasn't really thinking much beyond that initially, at least. I was like, if I could get to that, I'm good. I can get out of the job and I can just do my thing. What I've seen or come to realize now is that, as you continue on, just more and more opportunities present themselves.
So can we get into that a little bit, like
Yes.
opportunities? Because I think it's like somebody like you. So you have the experience of W-2. You're probably crushing the W-2. Now you're crushing the short-term rentals. You did a little bit of commercial, and then other opportunities start coming as you start sharing your story, as you also start continue to educate yourself and kind of build relationships. So like, when do you decide, okay, like, where do I go from here? As you're kind of in this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be different for everybody. And, what your goals are and stuff like that. I mean, I've kind of, honestly, it's been kind of going with the flow for me, which, again, maybe is not necessarily the best thing. I probably should have some more concrete, goals that I'm working towards at this
Okay,
point.
Cale, I'm there too. You're good. You're good.
So, but yeah, I mean, things have kind of just grown organically. The short-term rentals. So the focus was, okay, replace that income through short-term rentals. Okay, check, did that. Okay, next is just let's keep growing the portfolio of short-term rentals. Okay, we're doing that. Check. Then opportunity presented itself to manage somebody else's property. So okay, why not? It makes sense. We got the knowledge, the experience, the skill set. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And you start doing that, and now now other people start coming to you for that. So now you start a co-hosting side of the business, right? Okay, now we got that going. Check. Then you see, there's other needs along the way. We started doing like a standalone like revenue management service for short-term rental operators, coaching and consulting, those types of things. So for me, it's all just grown organically, just as what's kind of come my way, which again is good in one sense, but not in the other, in that I haven't been very intentional about it, which is something that I do plan on changing this year. That the focus is going to be a bit more intentional this year. But over the past year or year and a half or so, it's been just kind of go with the flow and what kind of comes my way. But and then the other thing is getting to a point now where starting to think about, okay, now what is the next step? And so, short-term rentals, that's been the name of the game for the past several years. And it's been a wonderful thing. And I still plan on continuing down that path, and, probably more so focusing on building out continuing to build out the co-hosting side of the business. But I think at some point as well, there's a point that comes where you want to, or you feel that it's prudent to start diversifying as well. And so that's been, the avenue that I'm starting to go down as well.
Yeah. So they say, the saying is, you never end up where you start.
Right.
And the great thing when it comes to real estate, and really a lot of other industries as well, is you have to start somewhere. And by starting somewhere led you to be successful, led you to have some experience, led you to check off the box. I'm assuming one of the boxes was to leave your W-2 job, which a lot of people look forward to doing. And now you're coming up to a point where your experience allowed you to open up other lines of revenue.
Right.
Like you mentioned, consulting. You are able to build a business on the side of co-hosting. You're able to buy more short-term rentals as well. So now you're at a point where you have that kind of mastered, and that's growing, and that's being managed. And now that gives you more a chance to look into other things. So what are the other things that you're looking into now?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm still, one of the big intentional focuses is going to be, growing and building out the co-hosting business in the short-term rental space. I think there's a lot of demand and will be.
So if you don't mind sharing, when did you start that business, and where you are with that business, the co-hosting?
Yeah. I think we took the first client, so at the end of 2020, end of 2023. Yeah, we took the first client. And now we're up to, I think 7
Okay.
So,
That's
and, you know,
great.
and that, again, that's just been no marketing or anything like that. It's just been organic people
Organically.
coming to me, and you know, one of the owners has a few properties. So yeah, so that's where that's going, and like I said, I want to just start building it out intentionally now, though, just because I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in that space. And then from the acquisition standpoint, shifting that focus, you know, probably away from buying more short-term rentals for my portfolio. I don't write anything off completely. I mean, if the opportunity presents itself and it's a good one, I'll, you know, I'm not going to deny it. But the focus now is more in the commercial space, you know, particularly looking at RV parks and assisted
Okay.
living facilities. And the reason for that is, you know, part of it is just purely to diversify into, you know, potentially some more passive assets. But the other thing too is just I think they're, again, it's prudent to start looking at the next level, which really is commercial real estate, and you know, whatever asset class that may be. Short-term rentals are extremely powerful for cash flow. They do have a bit of a hybrid ability to, you know, generate a decent amount of wealth too if you're in a good market with high appreciation. But there's a limit to it as well. And so if you know, really want to start building wealth, at least from my perspective, it seems that, you know, it's kind of a natural next step to get into commercial assets, where you have, you know, more control over the equity. I mean, that's really what you're going after, is you want the control over the equity in the commercial space.
I love that, Cale. You know, I feel like you know, maybe like 6 months or a year from now, when you acquire your first commercial property, you know, we want to, like, you know, kind of pick your brain on that and that whole acquisition process, and because, you know, it's you know, it's a lot of education and networking. You're doing the same things and just in like kind of a different niche.
Right, 100%.
But you know, yeah. So we're gonna transition into, like, you know, what does find your freedom mean to you?
Yeah. And again, it all comes in different phases and stages. I mean, right now, finding my freedom is more so going to be getting my time back. So, you know, it kind of went from the focus was financial, right? Get your finances freedom, right? And then you quickly find that, like we talked about, all these things, you know, start growing organically and things come along, and now you're like, well, I'm still working more than I want to. So, so now, you know, I think the focus is more so of kind of trimming things back to get to that happy medium lifestyle, investing more than just a financial, uh, you know, a financial goal. So that's what I would say is, yeah, getting the time back, getting more into a lifestyle form of investing, to really start pursuing things that perhaps are more of a passion.
That makes
Well, it looks like
sense.
you're still working out.
Yeah.
I mean, I see you still got the guns, right?
Oh yeah, we got some
Oh, there you
guns
go.
hanging
Watch
out.
out.
There you
Watch
go.
out.
Uh-oh. There's the show for you
I
right
think that's,
there.
I think Kale has like the biggest arms in real estate. So I don't know. I think the 20-inch pythons or something.
I'm gonna take that title. There we go. The
There
biggest.
you go.
Yeah.
I think it's
Gotta
lifting all the
rebrand you.
Amazon boxes and moving all the furniture around.
There you go.
Right.
And also taking all them selfies, you know, when you lift that phone, you know.
Come on now, Mr. Nine Rounds Boxing, whatever it is there.
But hey, man, you know, so a lot of people are going to be listening to this episode. They're going to be inspired about, you know, your humble beginnings and where you are today. So with that being said, they're going to have a lot of questions. How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. You know, check me out on Facebook. You find me there, Cale Delaney. Instagram, Cale_Delaney. You know, check us out on the Fit Investor podcast, and we have the associated Facebook group, the Fit Investor, as well on Facebook. So yeah, you can find me there and reach out.
Awesome. So this is the time where we, you know, always say, hey, we're ending the episode here, and we're going to end it with this big boom session. So what we're going to do is I'm going to count to three, 1, 2, 3, and on three, all four of us is going to say boom as loud as we can. Y'all ready? Get some thumbs up here.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. On three. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Check this out. We had a very, very, very great episode with Cale here. And I'm going to tell you, reach out to him, because what I said earlier about him wanting to take his shirt off and give it to anyone that needs help, he's really about that. And he's really a great person deep down inside, just an individual who had a dream, an individual who was determined to ensure that his future was not going to look like his past in the way that he grew up. And he just went after story. He could tell you more about his story, and he's very encouraging. So please reach out to him. Also, if you're looking for, some co-hosting for your property, Cale's here. He has a business there as well. And he's one of the guys that's really doing really well when it comes to short-term rental. So definitely reach out to him. And what we need you to do is leave a honest 5-star review so we can bring more guests on like Cale. It's very important that you do that. So share this episode with your friends, share this episode with your mother, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle. Share it with all your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. Until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.